Compare and contrast glycogen, plant starches, and cellulose. Glycogen, starches, and cellulose are all examples of carbohydrate polymers. And so they're formed from individual sugar monomers that are hooked together into long chains. And the chemical bond that holds together sugar polymers is going to be a glycosidic bond. And so if we take a look at this, we've got two sugar monomers represented on this slide, but one of these could be a growing polymer of sugar, so a chain of sugar monomers hooked together into basically a chain of carbohydrates, and then bringing on and adding a new sugar monomer to that. Basically, we're going to have an interaction that's going to be occurring between the hydroxyl, the OH group of one molecule, with the hydrogen of another molecule, removing the H here and the OH here, so H2O. So we're going to be doing a condensation reaction, removing water and forming this glycosidic bond right here. So we've added to our growing carbohydrate chain, our growing chain of polymers. So what we can see here, again, is our glycosidic bond here, joining together two sugar monomers, another glycosidic bond here, adding another sugar monomer on it. What we're going to see is that for glycogen and starches, we're going to have one configuration of the glycosidic bond. The cellulose is going to use different variations of the sugar monomers, as well as have a different form of the glycosidic bond, but it's still joining together these sugar monomers into a longer chain. So if we take a look at the characteristics, in general, starches produced by plants are going to be long chains, polymers of these sugars. They may be straight chains like amylose up here, or a branch chain like amylopectin here. And say we've got the sugars hooked together, but then at certain points we're going to be branching. Within glycogen, so within the liver or within muscle cells, we're going to see highly branched forms of storage of sugars in the form of glycogen. And then finally, with cellulose, what we're going to see are going to be long chains of these sugar monomers hooked together, but they're going to be cross-linked to give it structural support, giving the cellulose fibers its structural composition. Now this slide illustrates that cellulose, we've got these long chains of polymers of the sugars, and when we got hydrogen bonds linking these chains together. And so weak bonds individually, but lots of these hydrogen bonds holding together the cellulose chains and resulting in a strong structural fiber. So summarizing the characteristics of glycogen, starches, and cellulose. Starches and cellulose are going to be produced by plants, where glycogen is being produced by animals. Glycogen and starch are going to be forms of energy storage, so taking sugar monomers and storing them in a location for a period of time. Generally, when nutrients are plentiful, the sugar molecules are going to be stored up, and then when the individual is fasting or needs additional sugar, we're going to liberate or break down glycogen and starches by breaking off individual sugar monomers and making that available to the body. In contrast, cellulose is there for structural support. As we're going to see down here, cellulose, as it's a structural support, has a form of the glycosidic bond, which are going to be difficult to break. Basically, humans are unable to digest or break down those chemical bonds, where the bonds holding together glycogen and starch are that other configuration and are easily digested with the enzymes found within the human body. As illustrated earlier, liver and muscle are going to be locations where we can find glycogen. Starches, again, from a plant source, would be things like potato, rices, and corn. And then cellulose, being a structural support, would be the fibers found in things like wood, cotton, paper, even the fibers in something like celery.